Hey guys, tonight we follow a trail that begins high in the Andes, in the old imperial city of Cusco, and ends, well, let's just say, if you're the kind of person who reads mystery novels with a flashlight under the covers, this one's for you. The air here's thin enough to make your lungs complain, and the stories? They're even thinner on logic. You're looking for a girl who disappeared without a trace, except for one final letter. A letter she should never have been able to write. The clouds hug the mountains like a warning. You step off the plane into the midnight drizzle of Cusco, where the cobblestone streets echo with centuries of whispers, and the stray dogs look like they know more than they should. Your boots crunch gravel as you head into the Plaza de Armas, the heart of the old Incan Empire. And now, apparently, the starting point of your descent into what locals call the Veil. You're here because of a letter, folded once, dirt-stained, postmarked from a town not listed on any modern map. It was addressed to her sister, delivered 2 weeks after she vanished. It read, "Don't follow. It's watching the sky. Weird enough to land on Reddit. Weird enough to pull you across continents." So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with where you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. I love seeing where this little bedtime cult of ours reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're booked into a hostel run by a German backpacker named Otto who's been here since the 90s and probably knows more about Incan curses than is healthy. The walls are plastered with old concert flyers and half-faded hand-drawn maps. You're on the second floor, right above a cafe that serves coca tea and pancakes with mashed bananas. The tea helps with altitude sickness. The pancakes are just good for morale. Jet lag makes your brain feel like soup. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling fan slowly spinning above you. Outside, distant flutes and muffled drums drift through the open window. Festival? Or just Thursday in Cusco? Hard to say. The Andes don't follow your sense of time. They have their own. When you finally sleep, your dreams are sharp and cold. A girl walking barefoot down a gravel path. A man with no face. A letter burning. The ashes caught by wind that isn't there. You wake up convinced that today is going to be weird. Spoiler, you're right. Your first stop is the university. She was a study abroad student, 20 anthropology major, obsessed with Incan symbology and pre-Columbian burial rites. Classic. Her name was Hazel Kirchner. Her last known whereabouts were a dig site in the Sacred Valley, about 2 hours from here by bus, or 6 hours by donkey, depending on your appetite for suffering. A clerk hands you a copy of her student file. Basic stuff. Passport scan. Emergency contacts. One scrawled note stands out. Felt like someone was following her. Mentioned hollow people. The handwriting is different from the rest. Hurried. Jagged. Not part of the official record. You snap a pic. Outside, you're almost run over by a man leading 3 llamas strung together with twine and bells. He stops, stares at you, and smiles in a way that's either friendly or deeply unsettling. You nod awkwardly, like, "Thanks for not flattening me with your livestock." That's when he speaks. "You look for girl," he says, voice raspy like dust. Tall, blue eyes, walked into the valley moon. You freeze. You never said anything. He gestures you to follow, slipping between alleys so narrow they feel like throat passages. He moves with strange certainty, like he's not navigating but returning. He stops at a small shrine carved into a wall, half Virgin Mary, half something older. Around her feet, melted wax, bones, coca leaves, and a single Polaroid photo stuck to the stone with chewing gum. It's her. She's smiling in the picture, standing in front of a carved stone arch with strange concentric rings. You check the bottom. No date. But she's wearing a bracelet her sister swears she never took off. Silver and turquoise, custom made in Santa Fe. The man whispers, "She stepped wrong. Into the old way. Some doors open once." You ask where this photo came from. He just points east, toward the peaks, and says one word, Urubamba, and then he's gone. By the time you make it back to the main square, it's late afternoon and the cathedral bells are tolling. You buy a bus ticket for the morning, and a cheap pocket knife from a vendor who tries to upsell you on a poncho. You decline. You'll regret that later. That night, the dream returns. Hazel's standing under a giant stone doorway. She opens her mouth like she's going to scream, but what comes out is birdsong. Not metaphorical, literal chirping. You wake up with a piece of coca leaf stuck to your cheek and the feeling that the trip is no longer yours to control. Historians still argue whether the Incas used their high-altitude cities like Machu Picchu as military strongholds, royal retreats, or something else entirely, something spiritual. Some say the peaks were chosen for their alignment with constellations, forming a celestial map on Earth. You're starting to think those people might be onto something. Oh, and fringe fact for you, Incan messengers, the Chasquis, ran barefoot across mountains using a relay system that could beat modern mail in efficiency. No joke. They even carried knotted strings, quipu, as a form of data storage. Eat your heart out, cloud computing. But even the Chasquis wouldn't go where you're heading next. Hazel's last letter was postmarked from a town that doesn't appear on Google Maps. Your next stop, a river town called Ukiwe, where people still leave offerings under full moons and won't say her name out loud. You're not just retracing her steps anymore. You're following footprints that weren't meant to be seen. You arrive in Ukiwe just after dawn, crammed between a grandmother eating roasted corn and a cage of parakeets on a rusted bus that wheezes like it's had one lung removed. The town is quieter than Cusco, wrapped in fog and the smell of eucalyptus. There's only one main street, lined with weather-worn colonial buildings and hand-painted signs for hostels, hardware, and herbal cures. The only reason you're here is the letter. Hazel's final message had a smudged return stamp, Ukiwe, province of Urubamba. No year, just the month and day, June 3rd. Her official date of disappearance was May 19th. Yeah. Let that math bake. The town plaza has a faded mural of a condor fighting a serpent, a motif you've seen carved in stone back in Cusco. Some say it symbolizes the upper and lower worlds. Others say it's just a nice piece of public art. Historians still argue whether the condor serpent symbolism was intended as a cosmic map or simply a don't mess with the wildlife warning. You show Hazel's photo to the cafe owner. He pauses while making you a papaya juice, wipes his hands on his apron, and nods toward a table near the window. He saw her, the llama man. You sit across from him. Same face, same weather-beaten eyes. He has a scar under his chin now you don't remember seeing in Cusco. Or maybe you missed it in the night gloom. You didn't follow, he says, sipping something out of a gourd. Good. But now you follow. Bad. You ask him to explain. He leans forward and pulls a postcard from his pocket. Not the same one from the shrine. A different one. This one shows a crude sketch of what looks like a stone doorway, circular like a portal, surrounded by zigzag lines. And on the back, written in a girl's blocky handwriting, "If they find this, I'm not alone anymore." There's no signature, but it smells like the same perfume her sister said Hazel wore. Light citrus and something woody, almost sage. You try to ask where he got it, but he cuts you off. Valley holds breath before it swallows. Cool. Comforting. He offers to show you the trail she took, but only partway. Past a certain tree, he says, even the birds stop flying. You'd laugh, but his eyes don't blink once during that whole sentence. Next thing you know, you're climbing into the back of a supply truck. It's held together by duct tape, hope, and a slightly deranged belief in gravity. In the front seat sits the driver, a man in his 60s with a white collar and a silver cross around his neck. Priest. You climb in beside a crate of chickens and try not to look nervous. They're staring like they've seen things. Chicken things. The priest doesn't say much at first, just hums tunelessly as the truck groans up into the mountains. Finally, he turns and asks if you believe in resurrection. Not really what you want to hear from someone controlling your steering wheel. But you give him a neutral, sure. I'm open to surprises. He nods. I buried a girl like her. Last year. Same bracelets. Same eyes. But she spoke Quechua fluently. Said she learned it in dreams. You sit with that for a second. You ask if he kept records. He shakes his head. No body to record. She vanished before we could finish the rites. Outside the window, the terrain grows wild. Trees gnarled like hands. Moss dripping like candle wax. Somewhere in the branches, a monkey hoots once. Then nothing. The priest pulls to a stop beside a wooden marker and tells you this is where his road ends. The rest, he says, is old path. Very old. You climb out. The llama man is waiting, as if summoned by invisible ringtone. He holds out a walking stick carved with spirals that match the ones from the postcard. You're starting to hate spirals. You follow him up a path that isn't on any map. The trail is narrow and damp, lined with orchids and occasional skeletons of beetles the size of matchboxes. The altitude hits you like regret on a Sunday morning. Every breath feels like you're sipping air through a straw. At one point, the man stops and places a coca leaf on a rock ledge. No explanation. You do the same. Felt wrong not to. You don't walk, he says. You offer. You're noticed. Cool. Again. As you climb, he starts telling stories. Not in a creepy horror movie way. More like a bored museum guide who's been doing this too long. There is one doorway, he says. Not built by the Inca. Not even by those before. The air is wrong there. Cold without cold. You ask if Hazel went through it. He stops walking. Doesn't turn around. She knocked. But she did not wait for answer. At this point, you start to hear it too. A low hum. Faint at first, like the buzz of a distant power line. Except there are no power lines up here. Just rock, wind, and sky. The hum gets inside your teeth. You round a bend and see it. A stone gate, half collapsed, overgrown with vines but still upright. Spirals carved into the arch. More of them. You're really over spirals now. He gestures toward it. Doesn't go near. She passed here. I stay. You ask what's beyond it. He just says, memory and mistakes. The sun is dipping behind the peaks now, and the wind picks up, whispering through the grass in a way that sounds suspiciously like your name. You want to say it's just wind. As you step toward the gate, you swear something tugs at your backpack. You spin around. No one there. The llama man's already heading back down. You're alone now. Fringe tidbit. Some archaeologists believe there are more than 500 unexplored caves in the Sacred Valley, some sealed off by ancient landslides, others deliberately hidden. Local folklore calls them the doors that forget, places where people enter and don't return, not dead, just misplaced, like car keys or Hazel. So now it's you, the gate, and the setting sun. You take your first step past the arch. The hum stops, and everything suddenly feels too quiet. The trail winds upward in a way that defies physics, logic, and your quads. Every switchback looks identical, each bend revealing yet another climb. You can't shake the feeling that the mountains are watching. Not in a paranoid tinfoil hat way, more like an ancient, mildly disappointed grandmother way. Your lungs burn. The coca leaves help, but you're still gasping like someone doing CrossFit in a sauna. All around you, moss-draped trees lean over the path as if eavesdropping. The hum you heard near the stone gate is gone now, replaced by nothing but wind and the occasional rustle that might be a lizard or your own imagination having a crisis. You hike until the trees thin out and the landscape opens into what looks like a small plateau. A truck is parked there, battered and paint-chipped, engine ticking in the cool air. A local man, mid-30s, leans against it, smoking a cigarette and arguing with a wiry teenage girl over something in Quechua. When he sees you, he waves and says in English, "You the gringo looking for ghosts?" You nod, still trying to catch your breath. "I'm your ride," he says. "Name's Oscar. Don't touch anything in the back." The back turns out to be a chaos of ropes, tools, canned food, and an ancient cassette radio held together with duct tape. It blasts a tinny Peruvian folk song as the truck groans to life and lurches onto a dirt road that somehow manages to be both uphill and downhill at the same time. Oscar drives with one hand and points with the other. "See that ridge? Up there you'll find the old ruins. Off limits now. Some foreign archaeologists went digging where they shouldn't. You ask why they stopped. Some fell sick. One disappeared. The rest sealed the chamber and flew home. That was 3 years ago. No one's gone back." "Great." Oscar drops you off at a fork in the trail. "I go no further," he says, handing you a walkie-talkie. "Channel 6. If you scream, maybe I hear it." Encouraging. You continue on foot. The sun is fading, and the light has that eerie golden tint that makes everything feel like a photograph. You finally reach the ruins, stone walls half buried in undergrowth, carved steps leading to what was once a temple or maybe a tomb. No signage, no fences, just a faint sense of disapproval from the universe. You duck under a low arch and enter a chamber chiseled into the mountainside. It's colder in here, and not just because of the altitude. The walls are covered in carvings, spirals, jaguars, and something that looks like a humanoid figure with too many arms. In the center of the room is a pit. Not a deep one, maybe 4 feet down, but lined with perfectly fitted stones. Something was here, or still is. You find an old tarp in the corner, probably left by the archaeologists. Underneath it is a metal box containing broken tools, a half-used notebook, and a roll of Polaroids. You flip through them. Photos of the chamber, of the pit, and one that freezes your blood. Hazel standing exactly where you are now. Same bracelet, same cautious smile. But the photo is dated 2 weeks after her official disappearance. You check the back. In faint pencil, it reads, "The stone opens with sound." Fringe fact, certain ancient Incan stones at Sacsayhuaman are so precisely cut they fit without mortar and are believed to have been moved using sound vibrations, at least according to some fringe theorists and one very enthusiastic YouTuber named Lucho. You don't hear any sounds now, just the distant cry of a hawk and your own heart thudding in your ears. You back out of the chamber just as the sun slips below the horizon. The wind changes, and behind you, from deep inside the ruin, comes a low, rhythmic sound, like stone grinding against stone, or something waking up. You freeze, standing just outside the stone chamber, trying to convince yourself that the grinding noise is just a trick of wind and acoustics. Mountain air can do that, right? Echoes bounce around. Birds fly weird. Time loses shape. Totally normal. The sound stops, but now you hear something else, smaller, sharper. A soft scratching, like fingernails across stone. Nope, too much. You back away from the ruin slowly, not turning your back completely because, despite every horror movie warning, your instincts are still trying to make eye contact with the unknown. You trip on a root, catch yourself. No dramatic fall, just enough to spike your heart rate into unsafe levels. It's almost dark now. You flick on your headlamp, and the beam slices through the mist beginning to coil around the ruins. You look back once, nothing. Just moss, carvings, and a doorway that's been there for centuries. Maybe longer. You find a flat patch of ground nearby and set up camp. Nothing fancy, just a tarp, a sleeping bag, and the illusion of safety. You boil water for noodles, but you don't eat. Your stomach's on strike. As the stars push through the haze above, you remember something Hazel wrote in a forum post 6 months before she vanished. She'd been studying pre-Incan burial sites and wrote, "We keep thinking they were primitive. What if we're just illiterate?" Cool thought, Hazel. Love that. You curl into your bag. But sleep doesn't come easy. The Andes aren't silent at night. The wind sounds like it has opinions, and the trees creak like they're gossiping. At some point, you doze off. You wake up to voices. Not close, not clear, just soft murmuring. You sit up. Check your watch. 3:12 a.m. You kill the headlamp and strain to listen. Whispers. Not words you understand. Not Quechua. Not Spanish. Something else. The hair on your arms stands up, and your body makes the executive decision to start sweating. You peek out from the tarp and see 2 dim lights bobbing in the direction of the ruins. Not flashlights, more like glowing stones. They flicker, then vanish. You wait 10 full minutes. Nothing. Eventually, dawn stretches over the ridge like it's being careful not to disturb anything. You pack up and head back to the ruins, armed with more curiosity than common sense. The chamber is colder than before. You step inside. The notebook and Polaroids are still there, but now something else is too. In the center pit sits a small ceramic figure. It wasn't there yesterday. It's humanoid, about 6 inches tall, with elongated limbs and holes where its eyes should be. Its mouth is shaped in a perfect O. A scream? A song? You do not touch it. Instead, you photograph it. 3 times. Flash off. You check your phone and feel that familiar tech nausea. No signal, no GPS, no clue. You return to the surface and start exploring the hill above the ruins. After 30 minutes of scrambling, you find a path. Not a modern trail, but an ancient stairway carved into the stone. Each step is uneven, some worn down to nubs by centuries of feet. You follow it. Near the top, you reach a natural ledge that opens to a sweeping view of the sacred valley. Below, the river, winding like a silver snake, across. Terraces carved into the mountain, the remnants of a civilization that understood math better than you understand your phone bill. You sit and catch your breath. That's when you see it. An engraving on the rock near your foot. It's fresh, carved recently. It reads, "Don't follow me. Follow the sound." It's her handwriting. Hazel. You look around. No one. Nothing. Except for a weathered stone slab further up the hill, propped against the cliff wall. You climb to it and find an entrance behind it. A narrow crevice leading into darkness. Because obviously you're going in. You squeeze through the gap and emerge into a hidden cave. The walls shimmer with mineral deposits, and the air smells like old rain and something metallic. At the back of the cave is another figure, just like the one in the chamber. But this one is broken, its face smashed, its arms missing. You hear it again. The hum. Louder now. Deeper. You turn, and your headlamp catches movement at the edge of the cave, just for a second. Something pale. Something that ducks out of sight. You run out of there so fast you forget to breathe. Back into the sun, the ledge, the stairs. And just as you reach the bottom, you trip over something. It's a necklace. Turquoise and silver. Hazel's. Mainstream history note. The Inca were obsessed with acoustics. Some of their temples were designed to amplify whispers, while certain staircases would sing when walked upon. Sound wasn't decoration, it was a mechanism. You clutch the necklace and stare back at the cave. Something doesn't want you here. Something else might need you. Historians still argue whether the Inca worshipped their mountains as literal gods or simply respected them as doorways to spiritual realms. Either way, you're starting to get the vibe. You make your way back down to the ruins and fire up the walkie-talkie. Channel 6. Oscar. Come in. Static. Then, you're not supposed to be there. It's not Oscar's voice. You drop the walkie. Keeps crackling. Low. Inhuman. Humming. Singing. Calling. The walkie-talkie keeps humming even after you switch it off. You take out the batteries. Still humming. That's when you realize it's not the walkie. The sound is coming from beneath the ground. You stand still like one of those goats that faints when scared. No shame. This is a faint-worthy moment. The hum isn't loud, but it's deep, vibrating in your molars, like someone turned the entire mountain into a subwoofer. You decide it's time to leave, or at least get away from this exact spot. As you start down the slope toward where Oscar dropped you off, the mist begins to roll in. Again, it seems to have a schedule. Halfway down, someone steps onto the trail. You nearly jump out of your skin. It's not a ghost. Not unless ghosts wear Adidas. The man is in his 40s, lean and sun-wrinkled, with a scar above his left eye and a pack full of climbing gear. He doesn't smile, doesn't wave. You're not supposed to be on this trail, he says. You start explaining. He cuts you off. American girl. Blue bracelet. I saw her go in. Your pulse hits warp speed. You ask him where, when, how. He shrugs. 3 weeks ago. Said she was studying pre-Incan acoustics. Wanted to record a tone no one else had captured. Said she heard it in a dream. You ask if she came back. He hesitates. No. You introduce yourself and he finally gives his name. Mateo. Local guide. He's worked this region for 15 years. Claims he's taken treasure hunters, shamans, even a Netflix crew looking for undiscovered temples of doom. They turned around after 2 days. I'll take you as far as the stone gate, he says. But after that, I wait on the ridge. I don't step past it. You ask why. He doesn't answer at first. Then, because I've heard my own voice echo back before I spoke. And that doesn't sit right. That night, you sleep near the trailhead. Mateo builds a fire and boils tea with coca, mint, and something he won't name. The flames throw shadows across his face as he finally opens up. Locals say the mountain doesn't keep time like we do, he murmurs. They say people have stepped into the ruins and come out before they entered. You ask if he believes it. He looks at the fire. I believe we shouldn't assume we're the smartest thing up here. You drink the tea. It tastes like citrus and static electricity. Just before bed, Mateo hands you something. A small bone flute. If you hear the hum again, he says, play this. 1 note only. If something answers, drop it. Great. Love an ominous bedtime gift. Mainstream historical fact time. In the highlands of Peru, ancient flutes have been discovered carved from condor bones. Some scholars believe they were used in ritual communication with mountain spirits, or apis. The notes were so high-pitched they made dogs whimper and glass rattle. You sleep in fits. The wind sounds like feet moving in gravel. At one point, you think you hear someone crying. You check. Mateo is snoring. At dawn, you hike together back up toward the gate. The stone arch looks different in daylight. Less threatening, more sad, like it's been waiting. Mateo stops 50 feet from it. This is as far as I go. You nod. He hands you a coil of climbing rope. Follow the path up and left. You'll reach a narrow ledge above the ruins. Stay on it. If it disappears, turn around. The phrase, if it disappears, should not be in a hiking guide. You cross the gate. Nothing happens. Except the hum starts again. Very faint, but insistent, like someone tapping a tuning fork inside your skull. You climb slowly, every step stirring dust from stones that haven't been walked in years. Maybe decades, maybe longer. About 30 minutes in, you reach a fork in the path. One way winds down toward a ravine. The other, a sheer cliff with narrow footholds carved into it. Guess which one Hazel probably took? You hook into the rope and begin scaling sideways along the cliff face. The wind picks up. It smells like iron and old water. At one point you spot a shape in the rock, a carving of a face mouth wide just like the figurines. You keep climbing, and then you find it. A small shelf of rock jutting from the cliff. On it, a pile of stones stacked deliberately. A shrine. Nestled between the rocks, cassette tape, a real one, analog, labeled 4K. Hazel, you sit down on the ledge, hands shaking. You don't have a player, but you do have your phone, and a headphone jack adapter. Bless your overprepared tech hoarder soul. You play the tape. Static, then wind, then her voice. Hazel, whispering. If someone finds this, I'm not alone. The stones remember. They replay sound. They replay me. A pause. Then, I didn't mean to go this far. I only wanted to know if the stories were true. They are. And I think I've become one. Click. End of tape. Fringe tidbit. Some ancient ceremonial sites in Peru have been shown to echo specific frequencies back days after they were made. Recording, in a sense, residual sound patterns. Acoustic archaeologists believe certain stones may retain vibrational memory, like a prehistoric vinyl record. You look around the ledge. There's a single footprint in the dust. Barefoot, and not yours. You back away carefully and return to the path. Mateo is waiting. You look pale, he says. You hand him the tape. He listens. Says nothing. Then, I know where she went. You ask. She followed the condors. There's a cliff up ahead. They gather there. Locals call it the last breath. You can see the entire valley from there, and sometimes things looking back. You feel like you've already gone too far. But you know you're not turning back. Not yet. Mateo insists on walking with you a little further before he turns back. The path climbs steeply now, narrow and etched with old boot marks and animal tracks. Llamas, maybe. Or not. You glance up and catch sight of 3 massive birds circling overhead. Condors. Hazel had mentioned them in one of her archived blog posts, the one about Andean burial rites. They say the condor carries souls to the mountain gods. I don't think it asked for the job. Foreshadowing much? You crest a rise and find a cluster of weather-worn huts circling a campfire pit, black with old ash. There are people here, maybe a dozen, mostly older. One little boy, maybe 6. Everyone is wrapped in heavy wool blankets and hats pulled low. No one's speaking, but they all look up as you arrive, like they were expecting someone. Maybe not you, but someone. Mateo murmurs something in Quechua. One of the women answers with a long, slow nod and points to a spot by the fire. You sit. The heat is welcome, even though the smoke smells of wet pine and something faintly bitter. The woman, face a canyon of wrinkles, begins to chant softly, voice carrying like a thread on the wind. Not quite a song, not quite a prayer. The boy sits down beside her and starts to draw on a flat piece of bark with a charcoal nub. His fingers move with odd precision, like he's tracing rather than inventing. When he finishes, he holds it up to you. It's Hazel. No question. Same braid. Same eyes. Same bracelet. You blink. The boy doesn't smile. He just sets the bark into the fire and watches it burn. You turn to the old woman. She says one word, Anki. You ask what it means. Mateo translates, Awake, but not here. You ask her what happened to Hazel. She walked with the wrong shadow. That's not comforting. Not even a little. The old woman reaches into her shawl and pulls out something small and glinting. A stone pendant shaped like an ear. She presses it into your palm. Listen. You do. You hold it up, and for a moment, just a second, you hear laughter. Distant, high-pitched, unmistakably human. Sounds like Hazel. You ask how that's possible. Mateo doesn't translate this time. Fringe tidbit. Some Quechua-speaking communities still use ear stones. Small, flat rocks with holes naturally bored through them by wind or water, as ceremonial listening tools. They believe spirits whisper through them on solstice nights or when the mountains decide to speak. You stay by the fire a while longer. The boy draws another picture. This time it's a mountain. But the mountain has a doorway and through it a figure walking. The figure has long hair. The doorway has eyes. You thank the group and start to leave, but the old woman catches your sleeve. She's not trapped, she says, almost a whisper. She's looking back. As you and Mateo hike away, you ask what she meant. He just shrugs. That's not for me to know. Soon you reach a ridge where Mateo stops. He points ahead. This is where I go no further. You ask why. I went once, he says. 15 years ago. I came back with frostbite and a voice in my head that wasn't mine. Charming. You watch him disappear into the trees and take the path alone. After 20 minutes, the terrain changes. The air feels heavier. The clouds sink lower. And all around you, little stacks of stones appear. Offerings, probably. You hope. Each one has something on top. Feathers, bone fragments, scraps of fabric. One has a modern pen. Another has a Polaroid photo, so sun-bleached it's hard to make out. But it looks like Hazel. You're not alone out here. Not in the ghosty. They're behind you sense. Just accompanied. Like the trail remembers every foot that's passed through. You find a cave near the base of a cliff and decide to rest for a few minutes. The inside is dry, surprisingly warm, and etched with dozens of spiral carvings. You're so sick of spirals. But these are different, some are jagged. Angry, you notice a corner blackened by fire. You crouch down and find half-burned paper. A few pages survived. You read. The handwriting's hers. Hazel's field notes. I stayed too long. The gate doesn't close behind you, it moves. The sound isn't in the stones. It's in me now. I don't think it wants to hurt me. I think it wants to remember through me. You flip to the next page. I recorded something. I played it back. The cave sang it back in a voice that wasn't mine. That wasn't even human. This is a story no one should finish. But if you're reading this, maybe it's already too late. You sit back against the cave wall and laugh nervously. Cool Hazel. Super casual existential horror. Mainstream historical fact. In the Andes, caves were often used as ceremonial wombs, symbols of death and rebirth. They weren't places to hide. They were places to change. You step outside again, and something catches your eye. On a boulder near the trail, a handprint. Human, small, pressed deep into the stone as though it had been molten. But there's no sign of burning. Just the mark, still fresh. Hazel, you keep walking. Ahead, the mist thickens and something starts to shimmer on the path. Not glow, just shimmer, like heat waves off asphalt. You blink and it's gone. You keep walking anyway. The sound is back. And this time it's not just a hum. It's a voice. Your name, spoken softly just once. You don't turn around. You don't have to, because you know exactly who it sounds like. You trudge forward, the echo of your name still floating somewhere in the mist behind you. You tell yourself it's the wind, just air hitting rocks in weird ways. Or maybe your own inner monologue doing cosplay as Hazel. Either way, you're not going back. The path narrows again, forcing you to shuffle sideways along a sharp slope. Below you, the drop disappears into cloud, a cottony nothing that looks soft but promises a very final landing. You grip the rope Mateo gave you like it's the only friend you've got left, which, let's be honest, it kind of is. Then something odd happens. The ground changes. It doesn't look different exactly, but the dirt feels older, like the texture has shifted. Less trail, more floor. And the moss under your boots is damp, but warm, which moss shouldn't be. You stop, lean down and touch it. Pulses. Once. You stand up so fast your vision blurs. The pulse fades. The moss is just moss again. Probably. You keep walking, and 20 steps later, the trees open up to a clearing that doesn't appear on any map you've seen. Not that you trust maps anymore. Or your GPS, which now shows your location as null. That's reassuring. In the center of the clearing stands a stone slab. Not Incan, not even close. It's too smooth, too mathematically perfect, with tiny holes cut into the surface like a flute laid flat on the earth. You kneel beside it and look closer. Something about the pattern looks familiar. You check your bag, flip through Hazel's charred notes, and there it is, a diagram, half-sketched, labeled resonance altar. Hazel thought this was an instrument, not for music, for calling. You tap one of the holes with your knuckle. The hum answers instantly, not from the altar, from the air, from the mountain itself. Okay, great. You've officially pinged the Andes. You try another hole, this time using the little condor-bone flute Mateo gave you. You play a single note. The mountain hums back, louder. The sound reverberates through the clearing like a warm breath. Your bones vibrate. So does the altar. One of the holes glows faintly blue, like someone dropped a star into it. You don't play again. You don't need to, because that's when you hear footsteps. You spin around, nobody. You take a few steps backward, not blinking. And then something moves in the treeline. Something fast. Not running, floating. Just a ripple in the green. You speak. Hazel. No answer. Just wind. You wait, heart jackhammering. And then, from your left, a whisper. Not in your ear, but in your bones. The mountain doesn't forget. Mainstream historical side note. The Inca considered certain peaks to be sentient. Not just sacred, but alive. These mountain spirits, or apis, were said to reward the respectful and punish the arrogant. Offerings were made during specific celestial events, eclipses, solstices, or when the mountain spoke. You're starting to wonder if this one's overdue for a conversation. The wind picks up. A deep moan cuts across the clearing. Not from any animal you know. You turn back to the altar, just in time to see a figure on the other side. Barefoot, hair in a braid. It's her. Hazel. She looks at you, expression unreadable. Not afraid. Not even surprised. Just tired. You step forward, but before you can say anything, she lifts one hand, palm out. You freeze. Then she mouths something. 2 words. Don't stay. You blink and she's gone. No rustle. No footfall. Just gone. You rush around the altar. No sign of her. You shout her name. Only the mountain answers. And now the clouds begin to shift. Not drift, shift. Like they're being pushed. The clearing darkens. You glance up and realize the sun has moved. A lot. Like hours have passed in minutes. You check your watch. It's blinking midnight. Of course it is. Fringe tidbit. There's a controversial theory among fringe historians that certain high-altitude ceremonial sites were not just spiritual, but temporal. That is, the rituals performed at these places weren't just about gods or harvests. They were about bending time. No mainstream academic supports this, but it makes a great late-night rabbit hole. You gather your things and retreat from the altar, shaken. As you step back onto the trail, you notice something even weirder. Your footprints from earlier? They're gone. But someone else's are there, barefoot, walking toward the altar, not away from it. You retrace your steps slowly, reaching a ridgeline that overlooks the valley. From here, you can see where the clouds break, briefly, revealing the sacred valley like a sleeping dragon's spine. And then you see something else, a flash of color, turquoise, silver. Her bracelet is tied to a branch. You untangle it, hand shaking. It's hers, no doubt. There's something else, too. A scrap of paper protected by a waterproof sleeve. The handwriting is scratchy, uneven. You're not late. You're early. The mountain shows you what it remembers. Follow the cold. I'll meet you where the wind stops. No name, but you know who wrote it. Hazel. You pack the bracelet and the note, then look out over the ridge again. The sun is wrong. The shadows fall in directions that don't make sense. You check your phone. No signal. Again. Then it vibrates. Once. An audio file appears. Untitled. No sender. You hit play. Her voice. Hazel. Breathing hard. I hear you, she whispers. It's remembering you now. The file ends. And so does your sense of before and after. Because from this point on, you stop following a trail and start following something older, something the mountain never let go. You hike through the wind, pushing past stunted trees that seem to lean away from you. The ridge drops off sharply to your right, a sheer cliff swallowed by cloud. On your left, more of those stacked stone offerings, now arranged in patterns instead of piles. Spirals again. Always spirals. The air gets colder fast. One moment you're sweating under your jacket, the next your breath fogs like it's mid-January in Siberia. You shiver, zip everything tighter, and press on. The trail narrows until you reach what looks like a split in the mountain. A deep, jagged fissure, half filled with mist. There's an old rope bridge slung across it, barely wide enough for a single foot at a time. You should turn back, but you cross. Each step creaks. The ropes sway. Something howls below, and you're not sure if it's wind or something with lungs and opinions. When you finally step onto solid ground again, you spot it. A cave opening up ahead, partially covered in a sheet of ice. Inside, it glints like a glass cathedral. You move closer, drawn like a bug to a bug zapper. And there, lying just inside the mouth of the cave, is the impossible. A frozen body, perfectly preserved. She's lying on her side, eyes closed, one hand curled beneath her chin like she's mid-dream. Her skin has a pale glow under the thin layer of frost. She's wearing modern clothes, hiking boots, cargo pants, a down jacket. A bracelet on her wrist, turquoise and silver. Hazel. You drop to your knees. She's not decayed, not mummified, just paused. Your first thought, cryogenics? Maybe she fell and froze? But no, there's no blood, no trauma, and something about the way she's placed, deliberate, like someone laid her here carefully. You reach for her, but the second your fingers brush her jacket, the hum hits you again. Violent, angry. The cave shakes. You yank your hand back. Hazel's eyes fly open. You fall backward, scrambling. She blinks. Then she exhales just once. And then, she doesn't move again. The hum stops. Silence. You edge forward. Her eyes are closed once more. No breath. No pulse. Just stillness. You stumble outside, gasping. Your heart's trying to tap dance out of your chest. The cold bites at your face, your fingertips numb and raw. Outside the cave, you sit on a rock and try to pull your thoughts together. That was her. Not a hallucination. Not a dream. Hazel. and she opened her eyes. Historians still argue whether the ice maidens found in the Andes, sacrificed children perfectly preserved by the cold, were willing participants or victims. Some legends say they weren't killed, but transformed, entrusted to the mountains to wait. For what, nobody agrees. Maybe for this, maybe for you. You go back into the cave. Slowly, respectfully. She hasn't moved. But beside her, carved faintly into the ice floor, is another message. Don't wake me. I'm remembering. You don't even question how she wrote it. You just accept it. Because everything else stopped making sense miles ago. You examine the rest of the cave. At the back, you find something tucked behind a natural column of ice. A small pouch made from animal hide. Inside, more notes, sealed in plastic, still dry. Hazel's handwriting. You read. The cave holds memory like stone holds sound. I saw myself enter before I arrived. Just showing me to myself over and over. I think, it's learning. Next page. I met them. I don't know what they are. They don't use words. They feel like static and smell like wet stone. They weren't born. They remember being built. You pause. Reread that line. They remember being built. Next page. They showed me something. Not in pictures. In feeling. This place, it doesn't want to be found. But it does want to be remembered. I'm not the first. I might not be the last. You stuff the notes into your pack. Your fingers are barely working now. As you leave the cave, you glance back one last time. Hazel's body is still, but something about the shadows on the wall makes it look like she's standing. You descend from the ridge using your rope sparingly. The trail is slick now, icy in patches. The sun's dipping, though your watch says it's just past noon. Classic. You make it back to the lower trail where the mist lifts just enough for you to see the valley below. And someone's waiting. Not Mateo. Not a stranger. Hazel. Standing again. But this time she's in a different outfit. A woven poncho, dark green with red embroidery. Something an Incan priestess might have worn. She smiles. You blink. Gone. Fringe tidbit. The Quechua word for spirit memory is yuyay. Some believe places hold yuyay the same way books hold stories. To remember something here isn't passive. It's alive. Active. You're not just seeing the past. You're being pulled into its recreation. As you move down the mountain, you hear the wind shift again. It sounds like footsteps behind you. You turn. Nothing. But on the edge of the trail, a scarf. Hazel's from her college ID photo. You pick it up and feel something sharp in the fabric. A thumb drive. You don't remember her ever mentioning carrying one. You pocket it, heart hammering. When you finally reach camp, Mateo is there. He looks at your face, says nothing. You hand him the pouch of notes. He opens it, reads a page, and nods. She's not lost, he says. She's learning to echo. And then, quietly, you saw her, didn't you? You don't answer, because honestly, you're not sure anymore if you saw her, or if the mountain showed you its memory of her. You wake up to a sky that shouldn't exist, not because it's dark or stormy, but because it's wrong. The sun is in the right place, but the light feels skewed, like it filtered through something ancient and indifferent. The shadows stretch in strange directions, and your breath hangs too long in the air. Mateo's already packed. He doesn't speak until you do. I saw her again, you admit. He nods, as if that's just something people do up here. She walks the place between places. You ask what that means. It means she hasn't chosen a direction yet. Not forward, not back. Cryptic, unhelpful. Deeply unsettling. You show him the thumb drive you found in Hazel's scarf. He examines it like he's never seen a USB before, which, knowing Mateo, might be true. You explain what it is. He tells you there's a tiny town nearby, less than an hour down mountain, that has a working laptop at the local post office. Of course it does. You walk in silence most of the way. Your legs feel heavy. Not tired, just heavy, like the air itself is trying to hold you in place. The birds are quiet. The wind has stopped. Even the ever-present hum has faded into a waiting hush. When you reach the town, a patchwork of stone walls, corrugated tin roofs, and lazy dogs, you head straight for the post office. A bored teen unlocks a cabinet and wheels out a wheezing Dell laptop that's seen better centuries. You plug in the drive. 2 files. One labeled Echoed MP3. The other, final_letter.doc. You open the document. It's not a letter to her family. It's not a research log. It's addressed to you. Your name, in the header, typed cleanly. Hey, if you're reading this, then either you're way too curious for your own good or the mountain likes you. I'm hoping it's the second one, but I'll pretend it's both. You probably think I'm dead. Or trapped. I'm not. At least not how you'd define it. I chose to stay. Not because I was lost. Because I was found. You stop reading. Mateo leans over, eyeing the screen like it's a snake. You scroll down. There's something here. Something old enough to forget being worshipped. Something that doesn't need names or shrines or temples. It just needs witnesses. I became one. Now it remembers through me. You'll see things. You already have. But it's not trying to hurt you. It just wants to be seen again. You're not here to rescue me. You're here because it remembers you, too. Mainstream history break. A growing theory in archaeology proposes that oral memory in Andean culture wasn't linear like Western narratives. Instead, it operated in layers like overlapping sound waves. Time didn't flow. It echoed. Certain places became memory sites, where stories repeated themselves to those who would listen. You play the audio file next. Crackling static, then wind, then her voice. I hear you walking. Long pause. I don't know how far you are now, but I've seen you. The stones showed me. Another pause. If you've come this far, you probably feel it too. Like the air is bending. Like your steps aren't your own anymore. The sound distorts, then sharpens. I'm part of it now. It sings through me. And then faintly you hear it. The hum. Not behind her. Not in the background. Through her. The file ends with one final whisper. Follow where the path forgets. You sit back, stunned. Mateo folds his arms. That's not human sound. You nod, and quietly save the files to your phone. That night, you camp just outside town. You can't go back to Cusco. Not yet. Hazel's still leading you forward, somehow. The dream that night is different. Softer. You're walking barefoot on a stone path lit by glowing moss. Hazel is beside you, not speaking, just smiling. When you wake, you feel calm. Wrong move, because you step outside your tent and realize something is missing. The ledge, the one you climbed down from 2 days ago, gone. Just not there. You scan the area, your GPS still useless, your compass spinning like a broken fidget toy. You mark a rock with a chalk X and walk 30 paces forward. You come right back to the same rock, but your footprints are behind it. You mark another tree and head left this time. 10 minutes in, you see the same tree. Same mark. The path is folding. It's not paranoia. It's design. You sit, close your eyes, and remember Hazel's voice. Follow where the path forgets. So you do the least rational thing imaginable. You walk away from the trail, off into the brush, down a slope where no footprints lie. And somehow it works. After about half an hour of scrambling through vines and swatting at invisible bugs, you break into another clearing. This one looks ancient. Sunken stone steps lead down into a bowl-shaped depression. At the center, a raised platform, circular, more spirals carved into it, of course. But this time, something new. On the platform sits a pile of journals. Dozens. Identical leather-bound books, worn and stained. You pick one up. The handwriting? Yours. Every page. Written in your own hand. But you haven't written any of it. Yet, the entries speak of caves, and sound, and echo time. They detail things you've seen and things you haven't. Yet, you flip to the last page. One line. You forget so you can return. Fringe tidbit. In some ancient Andean initiation rites, participants were drugged and left alone in high mountain caves. If they returned alive, they were considered reborn. Not because they survived, but because they forgot what they had seen. You drop the journal. It echoes, like stone dropped into a hollow canyon. You listen, and the hum returns, louder than ever, almost joyful, as if something's recognized you. You don't know how long you sit there, surrounded by journals you haven't written yet. Could be minutes, could be hours. The sun never seems to move anymore, just hovers behind a thin veil of cloud like it's waiting for something to happen. Eventually, you pick up one of the journals again. The cover has your name embossed into the leather. It's not just eerie, it's offensive. You've never been the journal embossing type. You flip through a few pages and find a drawing of a cave you haven't been to. Yet, below it, scrawled in Hazel's handwriting, they write when you're not looking. Nope. You stand, brush yourself off, and pick a direction, northish, according to the sun and your increasingly untrustworthy instincts. You hike until your legs start to go numb, passing more of those unsettlingly precise stone stacks. Some are recent. Others have moss growing on them. One even has a rusted wristwatch balanced perfectly on top, still ticking. Eventually, you spot a gap in the hillside and duck through a curtain of vines into a narrow tunnel. Cool. A cave, because you clearly haven't had enough of those. Inside, it's pitch black. You flick on your headlamp and immediately regret it. The walls are covered in handprints. Hundreds of them, all sizes. Some small enough to be a child's. Others long-fingered and too wide to be human. The tunnel opens into a chamber. At its center sits a stone altar. This one's covered in burned paper, feathers, cracked Polaroids, and what looks like melted plastic. Modern debris offered like ancient relics. You step closer and spot it. Another page in Hazel's handwriting. This one isn't in a pouch or sealed in plastic. Just resting there like someone put it down minutes ago. The cave writes when I sleep. I wake up with pages I don't remember writing. Some of them are in languages I don't speak. But they feel like mine. I saw someone last night. Not a person. A shape. Silver eyes. They stood just outside the firelight. Watching. Not cruel. Not kind. Just remembering me. You swallow. Loudly. And then something happens that turns your blood to slush. You hear writing. Not scribbling. Not rustling. Writing. That soft, deliberate sound of pen on paper. You spin around. Nothing. Then you look down. Your hand is moving. On its own. Gripping a pen. Tracing lines onto a page of your journal. You let go. The pen clatters to the ground. The writing stops. The page reads, "You've been here before." You back away, bumping into a low stone shelf that wasn't there a second ago. A new journal sits atop it, blank, except for the inside cover. It says, Volume 3. Your name's there, too. You grab it. No choice. At this point, you're just along for the genre shift. Outside, the sky has shifted color again. Bluer than it should be, with clouds moving against the wind. You feel a chill down your spine and realize it's not the cold. It's a presence. You're being watched. But not by one thing. By many. You turn slowly. They're standing along the trillion figures. Thin, tall, unmoving. At least a dozen of them. Too far to see clearly, but close enough to count. The silver eyes are real. They reflect light like water under moonlight. You should be scared. But you're not. They don't move. They don't speak. But they're waiting. Mainstream history. There are persistent rumors in Andean folklore of beings called the Inkachak, echo keepers, believed to be neither gods nor spirits, but remnants. Not dead, not alive, just remembered into existence. Most scholars dismiss this as symbolic mythology. Emphasis on most. You blink and they're gone. Just like that. No movement. No footsteps. Like a page turning. You keep walking. Eventually, you reach a small overhang that offers a view of the valley. You sit. Then something strange happens. Your phone, dead since forever, vibrates. One message. No signal. No app running. Just one notification. From Hazel. It says, "Look behind you." You don't want to. You do anyway. And there it is. Camera. Your own. The one you lost 3 days ago near the ruins. Sitting on a rock. You pick it up, hands trembling. The battery's dead, obviously, but the camera's still warm. How? You slide out the memory card and tuck it into your pack. Your eyes scan the trees. Nothing. No silver eyes. No whispers. Just wind. For now. You descend the path toward a stone corridor carved into the hillside. As you walk, carvings begin to appear on the walls. Scenes. You, Hazel. Not drawn crudely, chiseled masterfully, like museum relics. One shows you walking into the stone gate. Another shows you holding the flute. Another shows Hazel, lying in the cave of ice, eyes open. And then, at the end of the corridor, a final carving. A letter. A full page of symbols arranged like language, but not one you know. Underneath it, something written in English. The final letter wasn't for you. Fringe tidbit. Some linguists believe pre-Incan scripts may have used pictographic storytelling combined with vibrational cues, meaning certain symbols only unlocked when spoken or sung. No Rosetta Stone exists, and the few surviving examples? Burned during the Spanish conquest. You keep moving. The corridor opens into a massive circular space. An amphitheater carved into the rock. It's empty, silent, except for one thing. A single journal, lying at the center. Your hands shake as you open it. It's blank. Then a word appears, like it's being written in invisible ink coming to life. Listen. And somewhere deep in the mountain, Hazel begins to speak. Not with a voice, with memory. And now it's yours too. You don't remember walking to the center of the amphitheater. One moment you're on the outer rim, clutching the blank journal. The next, you're standing exactly where Hazel's final entry appeared. Feet planted, breath shallow. Your shadow long and curved along the stone. The journal lies open at your feet, still blank, except for that one word. Listen. And so you do. You close your eyes. No birds. No wind. No footsteps. Then, softer than a whisper, you hear something you can't quite describe. Not music. Not a voice. More like intention made sound. You crouch and place one hand on the stone floor. It's warm. The vibrations start small, like a pulse under your fingers. But then they build wave after wave of something ancient and organized. You realize it's not random. It's a pattern, a rhythm. You know this isn't just sound. It's memory. And the mountain isn't just holding on to it. It's broadcasting. You flip back through the journal. More words begin to appear. I didn't leave a trail. I became the trail. The offering wasn't me. It was time. I remembered forward. That's how I found you. You flip again. Pages fill themselves in. Maps, diagrams, words half in English, half in something you've never seen but somehow understand. You ask aloud, "Is this what happened to her?" And the mountain answers, not with words, but with light, because above you, the sky begins to shift. Darkness rolls in, not night, but something deeper, a shadowless eclipse. The sun blinks, just for a moment, and then returns, wrong. Lower than before. The air presses in. You hear a scraping behind you and turn to find a path that wasn't there a moment ago. Stone steps leading downward, curving into the mountain. Because, of course, you descend. Each step feels familiar, even though your mind protests. You know you haven't been here, but your body disagrees. You reach a chamber at the bottom, vaulted, echoing, impossibly large. There are no torches, no lights, but everything glows with soft blue-green luminescence, as though the stone itself remembers daylight and chooses to recreate it. And at the center, a platform, flat, smooth, with a pattern of rings radiating outward. Hazel stands at the edge of it, alive, or remembered. You call out. She doesn't react at first. Then she turns. Her eyes are silver, not glowing, just reflective, like she's been looking at things we weren't meant to see. She smiles, not warmly, but not unkindly either. "You made it," she says. "I wasn't sure you would." You ask her where she is, what this is. Her smile softens. This isn't a place. It's a conclusion. You step forward. She doesn't move. "I came to find you," you say. "No," she says gently. "You came because the story needed to finish. I'm just the page before yours." You tell her about the ice, the voice, the thumb drive, the journals. She nods. The mountain remembers everything. Sometimes, it leaves pieces behind so the next echo has something to follow. Mainstream history. In ancient Andean death rites, it wasn't unusual for the deceased to be spoken of in present tense. The soul wasn't considered gone. It was simply relocated, engaged in a cycle of remembering and retelling. The afterlife was memory in action. You ask her if she's real. She tilts her head. "I'm still remembering." So yes, but also not the way you mean. She beckons you to the platform. You step onto it. The hum returns, but now it's clear. A tone. A song. You're part of it now. Hazel looks down. "I wrote something I shouldn't have. I played a note no one was supposed to play." You ask if that's why she vanished. "No," she says. "That's why I was heard." You want to ask more, but she places a hand on your chest. "Your part's not done yet." Then she's gone. Just gone. No shimmer, no fade. Just no longer occupying space. The platform begins to spin, not physically, but the carvings move beneath your feet like a record on a turntable. Images flicker across the walls. Your memories, but not as you remember them. Events you haven't lived yet. Places you've never seen but feel nostalgic for. You see Hazel standing in a field of stars. You see yourself writing a letter to someone you haven't met. You see the mountain opening its eye. Then everything stops. You're alone again, but the journal's still in your hand. You flip to the last page. It reads, "To be remembered is to remain." Then below it, "Your letter's next." Fringe fact, there's a minor archaeological site near Machu Picchu, known only to locals as La Voz Perdida, the lost voice. Legend has it that anyone who speaks a true story aloud within its walls will find that story written in stone by morning. You climb the stairs back to the surface. The sky has changed again. It's night now, or close to it. But you're not lost. You know exactly where you are. You were always meant to be here. You step into the forest as the wind picks up. And somewhere in the dark, a voice you've never heard before calls your name. Not Hazel's. Yours. You don't recognize the voice that calls your name, but it knows how to say it. Not mispronounced, not mangled. It lands in the air perfectly, like it's been practiced 100 times. You turn toward the sound. The trees part like theater curtains. And there they are, the silver-eyed ones. This time closer. You see them clearly now, tall, lean, humanish. Skin that doesn't reflect light but absorbs it. Eyes like polished mercury, wide and still. They don't move. They just exist. And then one of them lifts its hand. A gesture so subtle, so simple it nearly breaks you. Because it's a wave. Not hostile. Not welcoming. Just recognition. You wave back because what else are you going to do? The nearest one steps forward. No sound. No weight. Just presence. It stops inches from you and raises its hand again. Palm forward. You mirror the motion. And something clicks. You're not in the forest anymore. You're standing in a room of mirrors, only they're not mirrors. They're memories. Every surface shows something different. Your life. Hazel's life. The old woman at the fire. Mateo staring into the mist. The girl in the ice. A condor flying backward across a purple sky. The silver-eyed being doesn't speak. But you understand. This is their gift. This is what they do. They remember. Perfectly. Infinitely. Through sound. Through echo. Through people. You're watching the mountain dream. And you're part of it now. The being steps aside, revealing a doorway that wasn't there. You pass through it, and step onto a narrow ridge that overlooks a plateau bathed in moonlight. There you see it. A ceremonial platform, weathered by time but unmistakable. At its center stands a tall, curved structure, almost like a harp made of stone, strung with threads of metal and bone. Wind runs through it, playing notes that aren't notes. It's music, but wrong. Beautiful and terrifying. You hear your own heartbeat syncing with it. Hazel stands beside the instrument. Alive. Or remembered. Or both. You followed the sound, she says, not turning around. You walk closer. The wind pulls at your clothes. I didn't know where it would lead. You admit. She nods. It never tells you. It just plays. She steps aside and gestures to the instrument. It's yours now. You laugh. A small, breathless thing. What does that mean? Hazel meets your eyes. You're the next echo. Mainstream history. The Incas believed that when a messenger died en route, another was born knowing where to pick up the thread. The task, not the person, was inherited. Destiny wasn't linear. It was circular. Rhythmic. Someone always remembers. You look at the instrument, at the strings. You pluck one. The sound is quiet, but it travels. The air itself seems to pause and listen. The trees go still. You pluck another. This one makes your bones ache. It's a chord only memory can hear. Hazel watches. I used to think I was lost, she says. But I wasn't. I was being memorized. You ask what happens now. Her smile is tired. You play. You leave your memory behind. You become the song. You step away from the instrument. Can I go back? She thinks for a moment, then shrugs. Some people do, but it's never quite the same. They come back different, lighter, or heavier, like they're carrying echo in their pockets. You remember the journals, your name on them, your handwriting. You were already echoing long before you knew it. Fringe tidbit. In fringe circles, there's a belief that sound can encode experience. That by reproducing a specific resonance, you can tune in to the memories of those who've stood in the same place. Not metaphorically, literally. Hazel walks with you to the edge of the platform. The view is breathtaking. The sacred valley stretches below, mist curling like breath around its spine. The constellations above seem closer, hung lower, like they're waiting to be touched. You'll know when to leave, she says. And when you do, leave something behind. You look at her. Will I see you again? Hazel doesn't answer, because she's already gone. Not vanished, not disintegrated, just remembered somewhere else. You descend the path, this time more slowly, thoughtfully. At the bottom of the trail, the silver-eyed beings wait. One steps forward and hands you something. A letter, old, crinkled, your name on the front. You open it. Inside, you will not remember writing this, but we needed you to find it. Thank you for listening. Now let someone else follow the sound. You look up. They're already gone. You pocket the letter. As you walk back into the forest, the trees lean in, closer, like they're trying to hear your footsteps. And far behind you, the wind plays the stone harp one last time. One note, perfect, final. The forest feels different now. Not less eerie, just more known. Like walking through someone else's childhood home in the dark and realizing the floorboards creak in the same places. Every leaf crunch underfoot sounds intentional, composed. You can't stop thinking about that final note the harp played, how it echoed through you instead of off the trees. You're descending again, but you're not sure if it's down the mountain or down into yourself. These days, the line blurs. Time isn't behaving either. Your watch says it's 4:12 a.m., but the light filtering through the trees is solid afternoon gold. You check your phone again. Battery, 3%. Signal, none. Wallpaper, different. There's a photo of Hazel, but not one you took. She's standing on the cliff where the harp was. Hair braided, wearing that woven poncho. She's smiling just a little and looking past the camera, not at it. You didn't take this, and yet here it is. You don't even try to explain it. Instead, you keep walking. The path widens into a strange clearing, filled with etchings on the ground. Overlapping circles, spirals, sun symbols, and one shape you haven't seen before. A jagged line cutting through a square. You step around it like it might bite. At the far end of the clearing, an old man sits on a flat rock, carving something into wood with a bone knife. He doesn't look up when you approach. Doesn't seem surprised you're here. You're late, he says, still whittling. You blink. You were expecting me? No, he replies. But the place was. You sit beside him, unsure why. Maybe because he radiates the same energy as the mountain. Ancient, still low-key judgmental. You glance at what he's carving. A replica of the harp, down to the bone string detail. He finishes it, wraps it in cloth, and hands it to you. You'll leave this when it's time. You nod like you understand. You don't. You ask if he knows Hazel. He doesn't answer, just gestures to the trees behind him. You walk through them and emerge onto a narrow path that overlooks a series of descending switchbacks. Each bend is marked with a stone carving. The first, an eye. The second, an open mouth. The third, a spiral. Each one feels like a checkpoint or a warning. At the fourth bend, your compass flips out entirely. The needle spins, then drops. Dead. You pull out a folded map, the one you've been tracking your route on. The ink is smeared. Some of the trails are gone. Others now lead in loops that weren't there before. The mountain is editing you. You try GPS one last time. Location, 0.0 degrees north, 0.0 degrees east. Good. You've officially left the known world. Fringe fact, several ancient Andean maps included sacred blind spots, territories deliberately left unmarked or erased. These were often associated with spiritual danger, places too full of memory for the living to pass through safely. Some of these blank zones align eerily with modern-day satellite anomalies. You press on. The fog thickens again, rolling in sideways, as if the mountain is exhaling. You try to stay on the switchback, But at some point it stops being a trail and starts being a stone ramp. Then a staircase. Then nothing at all. You stop. There's no path forward. Just a flat wall of rock. But it's carved. An enormous map. Not of geography, but of moments. You recognize one. Hazel holding the flute. Another. You, asleep in your tent, writing without knowing. Another still. The two of you sitting together, though that hasn't happened. Yet, the wall map ends in a black circle. Beneath it, a word. Remains. You hear it before you see it. The low hum, not threatening, more like a memory clearing its throat. The air thickens. Your heartbeat slows. And from the mist, a figure appears. Not Hazel. You, but older. Weathered. Ice-tired. Holding the same journal you're carrying. Your mirror you walks right past you without a glance. Disappears into the trees. And is gone. You don't chase. You can't. Instead, you walk in the direction they came from. And find yourself standing at the edge of a cliff. A flat platform juts out. Spirals carved into it. And in the center, a stone table. On it, your journal. Open to the last page. Blank. Then slowly letters appear. Someone else is following you now. Mainstream history break. Quechua oral tradition includes stories of mapes vivas, living maps, that update with each traveler's journey. They don't track space. They track memory. Each step you take is added live. And once you finish, the next begins where you left off. You sit beside the table. Watch the mist pull apart to reveal the valley again. And you realize the mountain doesn't just keep memories. Passes them along. Through people. Through pages. Through places. The next echo is already out there. And maybe, just maybe, you're part of their map. You spend what feels like hours at the cliff's edge, watching the mist curl and unroll like breath over glass. You've stopped trying to check the time. Your watch gave up sometime around the cave, and your phone now displays a single message no matter what you press. Still remembering, you run your fingers along the carved table. Every groove feels intentional. Every spiral a breadcrumb. You wonder if Hazel sat here too. If her fingers traced the same paths. If the mountain let her leave. You reach into your pack and pull out the replica harp the old man gave you. It's wrapped in cloth, still warm somehow, like it's absorbing everything around it. You place it on the table and whisper, "I remember." The wind carries your words somewhere higher. You step back. The harp hums. It's faint, like the sigh of an old vinyl record. But the note it plays is familiar, your note. The one the mountain played through you back at the amphitheater. It echoes gently between your ribs. You turn to leave, but the table stops you. New carvings appear. Not symbols. A map. It shows a trail winding down, looping back through all the places you've passed. Then veering left, toward something new. An X marks the final bend. You fold the map and begin the descent. The air changes almost immediately. The fog lifts, the trees feel closer, more rooted. Like you're entering a part of the mountain that isn't ancient anymore, just deeply aware. Then you see them. 3 more figures in the mist. Not silver-eyed. Not mountain spirits. People. Travelers like you. One has a DSLR camera. Another wears a NASA sweatshirt. The third carries a well-worn journal. They're standing near a spiral etched into the trail, staring at it like they've just discovered math. You freeze. They don't see you. You watch for a minute, listening. The one with the camera says, "She said she came this way." She being Hazel, or you? You step out of the trees. They all turn. No one screams. No one runs. Instead, they all nod, like you're the final clue in a story they've only just started. "We followed your notes," says the one with the journal. You blink. "What notes?" They show you. The handwriting is yours. Your name is at the top. Instructions, diagrams, a date that hasn't happened yet. One of them smiles nervously. Is it real? You look around, at the carvings, at the mist, at the trail that brought you here, and you say, "It remembers." They nod like they've heard that before, like they were hoping you'd say exactly that. They're the next echoes. The mountain's already chosen them. And now, it's your turn to vanish gracefully from the story. You lead them down the path for a while, showing them where the wind shifts, where the carvings whisper, where the silver eyes used to watch. You answer questions you never asked for yourself. You sound like Hazel. That scares you more than anything. Eventually, the path splits. You stop. You'll need to go the rest alone. They understand. They thank you. And then they're gone upward where the trail forgets. You stand in the clearing alone again, and for the first time you feel the mountain breathe out. A sigh of completion. You kneel beside the trail and do what Hazel did. You leave a note. Short, final, deliberate. You're not alone. But this isn't about you. It's about what comes next. Fringe tidbit. In a rare, untranslated Quechua manuscript discovered in the early 1900s, there's a phrase scratched along the edge of the page. Not all echoes are backwards. The scribe who annotated the text later went missing in the mountains. His journal was found years later. Blank. You reach the final ridge just as the last light pulls away from the trees. The sky turns the color of old fire. You can see the entire valley now, Machu Picchu in the far distance, nestled like a sleeping question. Terraces rise and fall like heartbeats frozen in stone. Hazel is here again, not as a vision, not as memory, just present. She doesn't speak. Neither do you. Instead, she holds out a Polaroid. It's of you, standing at the edge of this cliff, looking down. She tucks it into your journal. Then she turns and walks into the mist. You let her. The mountain no longer needs you to chase her, because someone else will. Someone's already reading your notes, following your steps, stepping into your echoes, and maybe someday they'll leave a note of their own. You hope it says, "Thank you." You descend one final slope, the trail barely visible beneath moss and ashen time. The sky above has stopped pretending to be real. It's too still, too soft-edged. You get the sense the mountain has seen you, remembered you, and now, finally, is letting you go. But before you leave, there's something left to hear. The path dips into a narrow ravine lined with massive stones that hum faintly as you pass them. One tone, then another. It's like walking through a hallway of tuning forks. The pitch rises and falls in time with your steps. You round the last bend and see it. A stone archway, cracked and tilting, but still standing. It doesn't look grand. It doesn't shimmer or glow. It just waits. On one side, your trail. Behind you, everything you've remembered. And through that arch, stillness. But not silence. You step through. It's not a portal. It's a story's end. The noise of the world fades behind you. The crickets, the birds, the strange wind harp that has played through your bones since you arrived. It all quiets like someone turned the volume knob gently to 0. There's a table here, not the first one, but final, flat stone, circular carvings. You already know what to do. You place the replica harp gently onto it. It hums once, a single note vibrating into the earth. Then, slowly, you open your journal. The pages are blank again, every one, as if your story never happened. But you don't panic, because now you understand. That's how it's supposed to be. You pull a pen from your pack, Hazel's, the one from her dig bag. You write one sentence on the first page. "I heard you." That's enough. The hum stops. The mountain exhales one last time. And the air becomes ordinary. For the first time in days or weeks, or however long you've wandered here, the trail feels grounded, like something that leads somewhere instead of folding in on itself. You walk, the trees get taller, the air warmer, the birds come back. You see color again, yellows, reds, the brown of the dirt you've walked 1,000 miles across. You reach a dirt road, a real one. Car drives by. The driver doesn't look up. You're back, sort of. You sit on a rock and pull out the final thing Hazel left behind. The letter. The one that wasn't meant for you. You open it. It reads, "I didn't write this for you, but I hoped you'd read it. If you found me, then you know the truth doesn't hide in caves. It sings in them. I'm not gone. I'm just remembered differently. And now so are you." Mainstream history closes the book too early. Says Hazel vanished in the mountains. That she wandered too far. That she was chasing legends and fell. They call it tragedy, misadventure. But you know the real story. She didn't fall. She followed sound. She became memory. She became a letter waiting to be read. And now it's your turn to fold yourself into that echo. Just one last sound, before sleep. You're safe now. Let the mountain fade behind you. Let the spirals blur into the dark. You've made the descent, your boots finding solid ground, your breath warm again in the gentle, familiar air. The sound, the hum, the echo. It lingers only in memory now, soft and distant, like a lullaby sung in a language you don't speak but somehow understand. Let your thoughts drift, the story folding like paper in slow hands. You don't need to hold it all, just the feeling, the knowing, the calm that comes when a mystery stops needing answers and simply becomes part of you. Hazel's face, the flute, the stone harp, the silver-eyed figures watching without judgment. They're all still here, just out of sight, like stars behind clouds. You followed her footsteps to the edge of forgetting, and came back carrying a story that isn't entirely yours, and that's okay. Because now it belongs to everyone who dreams of places not found on maps. So let your eyes close, let your muscles soften, let your mind settle into the quiet between echoes. You're not lost, you're simply remembered, and that, in its own strange, beautiful way, is a kind of homecoming. Sleep well, traveler. Tomorrow's story will wait.